بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
They seem human, but they are not. From the waist down, they are human, but from the waist up, they are a mixture of sheep and goat-like creatures. Hanging by their feet in a cave, they wait in silence. The first time I saw them, I felt fear deep in my bones. For 3 months, I couldn't eat or sleep. She often appeared as a tall woman draped in a sheet. They have their own world, courts, homes, and schools.
What you're about to hear will drive you to terror. You are about to witness the chilling experiences of a healer who breaks spells and exorcises Jinn from bodies. Are you under a spell? How can you tell? What are the most dangerous spells and how are they broken? I warn you, do not watch this video alone at night. If you're ready, let's begin. Today, inshallah, we will be sharing a very important video. Since this topic is highly susceptible to misuse, you will be hearing it from a qualified expert. Many people, when faced with situations like spells or the evil eye, turn to the wrong people and end up with worse results. That's why we found a Sayyid and a learned scholar. Now, let's move on to his explanations.
When I was young, I started seeing certain forms on people. Even though they looked normal on the outside, animal-like features would begin to appear on their faces. I first noticed this when I was about 7 or 8 years old. When I shared it with my family, they thought I was being influenced by cartoons. However, over time, these beings began to reveal themselves more clearly. They were Muslim Jinn. The first time I saw them, I was terrified. I couldn't sleep or eat for months, and I even developed a stutter in my speech. These forms appeared on people as animals like snakes, black wolves, or pigs. Some of them had human lower bodies, but their upper bodies were those of animals like sheep or goats. Each form had a meaning. At first, they came to me in this way to prepare me, exposing me to fear once so I could get used to it. Over time, there was nothing left to fear because, as humans, we grow accustomed to what we repeatedly see. And God helps, as He gives extra strength to the one He bestows this knowledge upon. Without that strength, it would be impossible to endure such things. For the first 5 years, there were only images. There was no communication. They would watch me from a distance and smile, but they didn't speak. At the end of the 5 years, they appeared for the first time in the form of an elderly man and said, "God has granted you this knowledge. We are your teachers. In the future, people affected by possession or black magic will be brought to you. This is how their treatment should be." And they taught me.
Question: can you describe the veiled woman a little?
Whenever I wanted to go to the market, a tall woman in a veil would appear before me. She would constantly warn me, saying, "Where are you going? To the market? No, go home. You have books to read, your Qur'an to recite, and your prayer beads to use. What business do you have at the market?" Thanks to her, alhamdulillah, I learned to control myself.
Have you ever been affected by a spell or Jinn possession? What kind of precautions do you take against it?
Yes, many spells have been cast on us because we interfere with the work of sorcerers. Since we break spells both in Turkey and abroad, sorcerers hold a grudge against us. People can easily reach these sorcerers, and no matter how much they pay, they get spells done without a pang of conscience. A mother-in-law may cast a spell on her daughter-in-law, a daughter-in-law on her mother-in-law, and even people on their own mothers, siblings, or best friends. The number is vast, limitless.
Why are so many spells cast? What is the most prominent reason?
The most prominent reason is jealousy. People can't tolerate someone else's success. For example, a friend might think, "How can they rise while I remain stagnant?" and immediately resort to spells. This is a very painful reality. Recently, a mother-in-law cast a spell on her daughter-in-law just because her son didn't marry the girl she wanted. As a result, the daughter-in-law had 7 miscarriages and couldn't have children. The mother-in-law wanted her son to grow distant from her. Every day, around 10 people come to us because of spells or possession.
Since you interfere with the work of sorcerers, they hold a grudge against you. How much do sorcerers earn from this? What are the highest prices?
Sorcerers charge very high amounts. For example, priest spell is one of the most dangerous spells. Business people often resort to this type of spell. In the business world, they use spells to compete with each other. Love spells are also very common. When a man falls in love with a woman and gets rejected, he immediately goes to a sorcerer. The woman, who hated him 2 days earlier, starts calling him after the spell is cast. However, this effect doesn't last forever. It only works until the spell is broken.
How are spells cast on you?
So far, I've identified 6 spells that were cast on me. Sorcerers hold a grudge against us because we break spells. With God's permission, we manage to deal with these spells. When their spells are broken, the reputation of sorcerers is shaken, so they cast spells on me too. I detected 4 of them while they were being cast and intervened. However, I couldn't detect 2 of them before they caused harm. You may know that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was also affected by a spell, causing him to faint due to a spell thrown into the well of Darwan. I had a very hard time with 2 spells. Despite researching with other scholars, we couldn't find them. However, by God's permission, we managed to identify them 2 years later. This process was extremely challenging.
Could it be that your illness was meant to help you better understand your patients? What do you think?
Exactly. There was surely a wisdom behind it. That spell manifested as an illness upon us. Spells are activated by disbelieving Jinn. Otherwise, a spell alone is just a piece of paper that has no power by itself. The names written on it are the names of disbelieving Jinn. The sorcerer calls upon the Jinn and sends them to the person. You will go to this person and carry out the purpose of the spell, they say. However, the spell only takes effect by God's permission. Otherwise, it cannot harm anyone.
Just as there are disbelieving Jinn, there are also Muslim Jinn. Do you have a connection with Muslim Jinn?
Yes, we have Muslim Jinn brothers with us. There are many Muslim Jinn who serve the Ummah of Muhammad and work alongside us. With God's permission, I have been able to see them since I was a child. God prepared me for this knowledge. Without this ability, you cannot help people. For example, when someone possessed comes, the Jinn often hide and roam within the body. As mentioned in the hadith, they flow through your blood vessels. Without the ability to see or hear them, granted by God, it's impossible to treat the patient. This ability is connected to the true knowledge of havas, esoteric knowledge.
So, how can we tell if someone is a fraud? How do we find the right person to exorcise Jinn and break spells?
First of all, only God knows what's truly in a person's heart. We judge based on the apparent what we can see. Does the person you go to have a lineage of knowledge? Who did they learn this from? Are they backed by a friend of God? Just seeing Jinn in a dream doesn't mean one can heal. You need to have a formal authorization supported by friends of God. They should say, "I received authorization from such and such person, and I am qualified to treat the sick."
Do you have an authorization?
Yes, I have an authorization. I received it from Surmali Effendi in Elazig. However, as we mentioned, this is not something that can be carried out just by learning. It must be conducted with proper authorization and qualification. A person cannot teach this knowledge directly to another person. Permission must come from the other realm, meaning the knowledge comes from God and the beings of that realm. Without this permission, a person could ruin themselves and their patient or client. They might apply the wrong treatment, and the jinn they summoned could even come back to hold them accountable. This is why attempting this work without proper knowledge and guidance is extremely dangerous. While performing magic, they also lose their faith. It's clearly stated in Surah Al-Baqarah that both the one who practices magic and the one who requests it become disbelievers. Surah Al-Baqarah also mentions Harut and Marut. These two angels taught magic to humans. When Harut and Marut teach magic, they first ask, "Are you willing to become a disbeliever?" If the person accepts this warning, then they start teaching magic. Most of the people who practice magic either become disbelievers or lose their faith, lured by the temptation of money. They end up prostrating to Satan. May God protect us.
What is the incident that Hazrat Aisha experienced with the jinn?
According to an authentic narration, one day, while Hazrat Aisha, our mother, was reciting the Qur'an, a black snake began approaching her. She became frightened and struck the snake with a nearby stone, killing it. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was leading prayer at the time, and when he returned, Hazrat Aisha told him what had happened. The Prophet gave no positive or negative reaction to the situation. However, that night, Hazrat Aisha was taken to a court in her dream. This was related to the jinn bringing the case of that snake to court. In the world of jinn, just like in the human world, there are homes and courts. Yes, the event Hazrat Aisha experienced is quite remarkable. It is said that two female jinn grabbed her by the arm and took her to a court. In the court there was a judge, and this judge was a Christian. They told her, "You killed such and such person's child." Hazrat Aisha, in shock, replied, "I haven't even harmed an ant," and explained what had happened. They told her that the child was a jinn and had entered the snake's body. Hazrat Aisha defended herself by saying, "If I had known that, I would never have done it." In the court, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, intervened and asked the judge, "Didn't Jesus, peace be upon him, forbid you from entering the bodies of humans and animals?" The judge, being well versed in the law of Jesus, remembered the prohibition and acknowledged that the jinn were in the wrong. As a result, they declared that since the jinn had broken the law by entering the snake's body, Hazrat Aisha was not at fault and she was released. In the world of jinn, just like in our world, there are homes, schools, and courts. They even have hospitals and doctors. Jinn also get sick, but they are more resilient compared to humans. They can be affected by germs and wars, just like us. The most common cause of death among them is war, and it is quite frequent for jinn to kill each other due to hatred and enmity. One reason jinn were banished to the seas is because of their constant fighting. During the time of Solomon, peace be upon him, much blood was shed among the jinn, which led to their exile to the seas. After Solomon, peace be upon him, the person who had the greatest authority over the jinn was Hazrat Asaf bin Berhiya. He was the cousin of the Prophet and possessed great knowledge. He used this knowledge in the event of bringing the throne of Queen Bilqis, while the jinn said, "We will bring it before you rise from your seat." Asaf bin Berhiya responded, "I will bring it before you blink your eyes," demonstrating the power of his knowledge. He is one of the greatest practitioners of Havas knowledge. As for the seal of Solomon, the true seal is currently hidden and will be revealed during the time of Mahdi, peace be upon him. The necklaces, rings, and similar items sold today as the Seal of Solomon are completely fake and have no real authenticity. A person can be afflicted by a jinn not only through magic, but also by accident, or simply because the jinn decides to harm them for no reason. However, the most important thing one can do to protect themselves is to be in constant prayer and remembrance of God, dhikr. Reciting Ayat al-Kursi, Surah al-Falaq, and Surah an-Nas, as well as making morning and evening supplications, is very effective in protecting against jinn afflictions. In such cases, one should always seek refuge in God and keep their spiritual strength high,